Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. Today is Monday. It's August 21st. We're talking beef brisket today. It is 11:52 in the morning. And before we get into the beef brisket, you are noticing that this is being filmed on the iPhone versus the camcorder. There are several reasons I am doing this solely on the iPhone versus the camcorder that you saw with the dumpling series. Now, I'm not saying that the camcorder didn't do a good job. When I edited the videos, they came out really good. Picture quality is a little bit different than the iPhone. The iPhone, I think, does a little bit clearer with me not having the lights on. But I will be using the camcorder probably for shorter cooks and the iPhone for longer cooks. Anyway, I want to warn you guys that this is not going to be a short video. This is going to be a multi-day video, and it may be a 4 or 5 day video with the brisket. And I'm going to try to keep each segment to 20 minutes or less so that you guys are not stockpiling very, very, very long videos. Now, my brisket is sitting in the refrigerator and it is fully defrosted. Like I said, it's going on noon today. This cook time for the brisket on the grill is going to take approximately 16 to 20 hours to cook. Yes, you heard me right. It takes 16 hours or longer to cook. So the first thing you need to figure out before you even touch the brisket is what time you want to serve it. Keep in mind the 16 to 20 hour cook time does not include the rest time. And yes, with a good brisket, you are going to want to let it rest for at least 3 hours before you even slice it and serve it. This allows all the juices to get back into the meat and will make your brisket really, really moist and juicy. Now, you can do brisket many, many, many different ways. You can do it in the oven. You can do it in a slow cooker. You can do it on a grill. But brisket takes a very long time to break down the muscle to make it nice and moist. A lot of times when I've had brisket at restaurants or I've had brisket at barbecue places, 9 out of 10 times the brisket has been dry. I'm going to show you guys how to have a perfectly moist brisket in the best way I know how. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the grill method. Now this will work if you have any type of smoker. It may be different on your smokers because I have the big green egg and it's going to be, this video is going to be more utilizing the big green egg. But if you have a good smoker, follow your manufacturer's grill's directions on how to do a brisket, but it's going to be the same principle. Now, I'm not going to start anything with the brisket until much, much later tonight. My goal is to have the brisket on the grill probably about between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. is what I'm going to shoot for. Now, there are quite a few things that you're going to need for this. I'll get into the step-by-step instructions later on. The first thing we need to do is prepare the brisket, and it's a little bit too early for me to do that, so I'm going to stop the video about 7 o'clock tonight. I will pull out the brisket from the refrigerator, and I'm going to show you step-by-step instructions on what a brisket is, how to prepare it, and get it ready for your grill. So stay tuned for that video. Okay, hi y'all, welcome back to my kitchen. Again, today is Monday, it's August 21st. We're going to be talking brisket. There are some things to keep in mind when you're doing a big brisket cook. And sorry, I am smoking. I just ran a couple of errands. You're going to need a few things other than the brisket and, of course, the grill. You're going to need smoking chips. Now, My Big Green Egg does the wood chips. There are plenty of videos for that. You can use almost any type of wood that you want to use. I would stay kind of away from the mesquite and the cherry. They just seem to make the brisket a little bit more heavier flavored. However, if that's something you like, you certainly can use that. We're going to use pecan and apple. I'll try to show you the setup. It may be a little bit harder tonight to do that because I'm going to start the brisket quite late this evening. But there are a few things that you definitely need to do ahead of time before you even start to trim and cook the brisket. One, you're going to need towels. You're going to need about 4 towels. And you might be wondering, why do I need towels? Well, you need towels because when the brisket comes off the grill and you wrap it in butcher paper and aluminum foil, you're going to want to wrap it in multiple towels and put it in a cooler for at least 3 hours for the brisket to fully rest. Yes, I did say 3 hours, and you might be going, oh my God, won't that make the brisket ice cold and get bacteria? No. If you do it right, and I will show you tomorrow when I get to that point how we do that. You're also going to need butcher paper. And I just ran out because I don't have any butcher paper. So you're going to want butcher paper. You're going to want unwaxed and unbleached or uncoated butcher paper. And it's very important to get that. You don't want waxed. Edward, stop. You don't want to get waxed butcher paper, and you do not want to use parchment paper. The reason being is when you hit the stall, and we'll get into that later on the grill, you're going to need to wrap your briskets up in butcher paper and just pull through the stall. Again, I'll get into all of these explanations if you're new to the brisket. We'll get into that later on. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a good cooler, and you're going to want to make sure that the cooler is disinfected with bleach, water, and very, very clean. You're going to definitely need to do that, and you're going to want to do that ahead of time. You can certainly do that while the brisket is on the grill smoking. Like I said, that cook time is going to be anywhere from 16 to 24 hours, depending on your grill temperatures and your setup. So later on today, we'll get into that. So that's basically what you need to start thinking about. You also are going to need to think about what time you want to serve your brisket. Now keep in mind this brisket takes anywhere from 16 to 20 plus hours to cook. And then you have to add in at least a 3-hour rest period. So if you're serving dinner and want to eat by 6:30 the following day, you need to figure out what time you need to put stuff on the grill. Now, in my case, if we don't eat tomorrow, if we eat on Wednesday versus Tuesday, it's not going to matter what time I put the brisket on the grill. I'm going to shoot the brisket for a later start, and I'm probably going to put the brisket on between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Yes, you heard me right. 11 p.m., 1 a.m. So I don't know how much filming outside I can do. You guys have seen enough of my rib series. If you go back to the rib series, you'll kind of see the layout of the grill. You're going to do the same thing, except this time with the brisket, you're not going to put it on a rack unless your grill is too small and can't accommodate the brisket. And then I'll show you what to do with that. So I'll be back much later on today. We'll go through the brisket and we'll get cooking, so stay tuned. Okay, good evening everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. If you're new to my channel, welcome. This is Cooking with Joel, where I teach you guys different meals of to do it. I do step-by-step instructions, and I am excited for this video. It's going to be the longest video I have ever recorded and probably one of the biggest meals I have ever made in my life. And we're talking beef brisket. Now, I pretty much have everything set up. The logistics of filming this is going to be a little bit tricky because you are on my iPhone and angles are going to be harder. So I'm going to, when I start explaining the brisket, I'm going to tip you down so you can actually see what I'm doing. Now, for those of you that have never made a brisket before, this is a very, very long cook. You do brisket usually about 225 to 250 degrees. The cook time for a whole entire brisket can range from anywhere from 14 to 16 to 20 plus hours. Then there's also a period of rest that the brisket needs to rest. Wrapped in butcher paper, wrapped in towels, and in a cooler where it just needs to chill out for 3-4 hours before it's sliced. So I am so excited about this video. Let's get started. Oh, before we get started, actually, there are a few things that you're going to want to do. Now, I know not all of you guys have a big green egg. If you have a smoking charcoal grill that can do brisket, follow your grill's manufacturer directions on how to do a very long smoke. Those of you that do have an egg, and the size will matter for a whole brisket. You need a large egg or bigger. If you have the Commander Joe red grills, this will work perfectly too. Make sure that all of your air vents on your grill are opened. None of them are clogged. Empty your charcoal and put fresh charcoal. Fill your charcoal almost to the top. And I'm not talking about the very top of the egg. But you want to make sure you have plenty of charcoal because, like I said, this is a very, very long cook. So, let's get started. And there are a few things you need to do before you get started with the cooking time. And I'm going to show you what the brisket looks like and explain different things. This, by the way, is a whole brisket. And there are two parts to a whole brisket. So I'm going to flip you over, and this is a 15-pound brisket. This is the bottom of the brisket, and you're going to need to do several things to this. You're going to need to trim all of this fat off of it. You're also going to want to keep tabs of where the grain is. And if you can see it, it's going this way. So when you slice it, you're going to slice it the opposite way. And we're going to make a cut right here so that we know which way the grain is. Now I'm going to move you guys down. I'm going to bring you in closer. You're not necessarily going to see me. Again, you're being filmed on the iPhone, which brings me to the next point. I may do a portion of this video on the camcorder just because when we take it outside to put it on the grill, my iPhone doesn't usually like low lights, whereas my camcorder can sometimes film in night view. So, let's get started with this humongous thing. Now, this is a prime beef brisket, and what that means is there are two forms of brisket. There's best and prime. You want to look for the prime. The prime can be more expensive. If you have a Costco membership, usually you can get one of these for under $100. Sometimes you can get them under $50 if there's a really, really good sale. Now, if you notice this has a ton of fat on it. On the underside, I'm going to flip it over so you guys can see the top side. That is the top side of the brisket, and we'll focus on that a little bit later. So I'm going to turn this on. Now, those of you that don't know what brisket is, it's beef. And usually people that make brisket make the flat. And the flat is actually, when I cut this, you'll be able to see it better. But there's a thinner side and a thicker side. And you can see how thick that is and how thin this is. This part of the brisket is considered the point, and this is the flat. What that basically means is the flat, for some cooks, you make pastrami out of the flat. For other cooks, you can turn the flat into corned beef. You can do the corned beef out of it. You obviously have to smoke it, season it, and get it ready to make corned beef. This cook is going to cook the entire thing in one fell swoop. So we're not going to do any of that, but we do need to trim a lot of fat off of this roast. Now, I will tell you this, that if you buy your brisket from Costco, the butcher is not going to trim it for you. If you were to get this at a grocery store or a actual butcher shop and have them trim the fat off for you, you're going to pay about $200 to $300 for that process, because there's a lot of prep work to do this. So I am getting my good knives out, and you're going to want really, really sharp knives for this. So I'm going to start on this side, and we're going to remove all of this fat. And the reason you want to remove the fat back here is this serves no real purpose for the cook. Oh, there'll be fat on here, trust me, but we're going to get rid of the bulk of the fat on this. And since this is beef, if you keep suet for winter time, you can definitely keep this and feed the birds out of it. Now, anywhere that there's other fat, this is called silver. You're going to trim that, and I'm going to kind of go in. And you're going to want to remove any of the membranes off of it. And hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to actually kind of angle it to you. I have some of that right here, and I'm just going to work my knife down, and I'm going to take all of this excess fat off the brisket, and I'm going to do that for a good chunk of this. Now, a lot of times, and I probably said this in a little bit earlier of a video that I did, every time I've had brisket out, it's always been dry. And that's because usually the flat will dry out before the point. Now this fat cap is thick, I will tell you that. And this brisket weighs over 15 pounds, which basically means it will feed a good amount of people. Now you might be asking, Well, if it feeds that many people, what are you doing with the whole brisket? Well, I'm glad you are thinking that, because you can actually freeze this and make sandwiches of it. Now, unfortunately, when I bought this, I was not smart. I froze it whole, forgetting that there is just the two of us. If you can cut the flat from the point, you can actually do it in a smaller chunk. This is just what the whole entire brisket looks like. And like I said, I'm just working my way through this fat cap, and there is a lot of fat back here. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to trim this. And this is also very good practice if you've never trimmed meat before. There are plenty of YouTube videos online of how to do it. And you just want to kind of be a little bit careful when you do it. If you take some of the meat off, it's not the end of the world. But you want to remove, like I said, you want to remove a lot of this fat. And I'm going to continue to keep you guys on this side so you can see where I'm trimming. And it does take patience. You want to do this at least 4 hours before you're putting this on the grill, because this needs to rest for quite a while before it's cooked. And you might be asking yourself, well, I'm not a butcher. Is it okay to leave some fat on the back? Well, yes, you can leave some fat on the back, but you really don't want to, because you're going to have plenty of fat on the top. Now, if you get too much fat with your knife, and I didn't mean to say fat, meat. I meant meat. Again, it won't be the end of the world. So I'm just gonna end doing this. And there are tendons in here that you want to actually remove, because that is what'll give the brisket a really tough piece. And you want to make sure that your knives are nice and sharp. And when would you make brisket? Well, brisket, I know a lot of Jewish people will have brisket for special occasions or holidays. And you'll see this silvery, and I'm going to put you guys in. You see how all of this is silver? You want to get that out, because you want to have good brisket. And that's what they call the silver membrane. What it actually is it's just a tendon. And you just want to trim as much of that off as possible. Now, you guys are getting into 14 minutes so far, so I'm going to stop the video really fast. I'll pick it right back up. Like I said, these are going to be a long video.